Many people have their eye on the state of Florida. Over the past couple years, we have been the main focus when it comes down to real estate news because of how our real estate economy has blossomed here in the state of Florida. But we're now still the focus of real estate news in the entire United States because people want to see what's happening with the state of Florida and why prices are stagnating, why closings have stagnated. And in today's video, I'm going to give you all the reasons. What's up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in the state of Florida. And if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest here in the state of Florida, make sure you reach out to me and my team. All we try to do is give you the information so that you can make an educated decision on what you want to do, which is buy, sell, or invest here in Florida. So one of the main reasons I wanted to put this video together is because as I go onto YouTube and I search Florida real estate, one of the main themes, one of the main topics that you're going to see is that the market is crashing, that inventory is exploding, and that pretty much in general is a negative outlook for the state of Florida and how things are going. And my whole purpose with this video is to give you some context to what these videos are actually saying and kind of just showing the opposite side of that as well. And also what I want to do is point out that what these guys are saying on YouTube isn't necessarily not true. There is definitely a lot of truth to what they're saying, but I think a lot of it helps when you have some context behind it. And in this video, what I'm going to do is kind of cover the context of what's happened in Florida's real estate market. We're going to be talking about the economy, we're going to be talking about insurance, and we're also going to be talking about hurricanes all throughout this video and show you how that has impacted our local market here. Okay, so one of the first things I want to do is kind of just address head on what these guys are saying in a lot of these thumbnails. And you can do this on your own. Just go on YouTube, type in Florida real estate and see what pops up. I guarantee you 19 out of 20 of the results there are going to be pretty negative. But what I want to do is add context to all of this. And what they're saying is right. They're like, hey, inventory is exploding here in Florida. Closings are down here in Florida. But when you blow up and you zoom out and you take a look at what our market looked like prior to the pandemic years, you'll see that what they're saying, yes, it's right, but it lacks context. Because if you go back to 2017 and you take a look at our real estate market there, more of a stable, normal market than what we saw in the pandemic years of 21 and 22, you're going to see that really there's nothing to be afraid of yet. So the first thing I want to take a look at is the active inventory in the entire state of Florida. So when you take a look at the entire inventory over the course of 2017 to 2024, you can see that we're pretty much in the same exact range as we were back in 2017. We're not higher, we're not lower, we're pretty much even with that. So if you take a look at the chart, you can see that our active inventory right now is right around 100,000 active homes on the market. Now this is talking single family, condos, townhomes, everything that's on the market, 100,000 homes across the entire state of Florida. When you go back to 2018, this time in 2018, we had 96,000 homes on the market. So that doesn't account for, population increase and things like that. This is what we have on the market back in 2018. So when you look at it versus now, which is 100,000 homes, and you look at November of 2021, you're going to see something that might scare you a little bit. So if you look at November of 2021, we have active inventory of 33,000 homes. And that's not even the lowest point that it got to. That's just November of 2021. Actually, the lowest point of inventory was in February of 2022, and we had 26,000 homes in total for the entire state of Florida. So when you take out that piece of data, when you look at November 2021 to November 2024, yeah, inventory is exploding. There's no doubt about it. But when you take a step back and you look at what the market was prior to the pandemic, you can see that we're not far off of what the actual numbers were back in the day. And believe me, I see some of these videos and I'm like, oh man, what's going on? Did I miss something? Am I skipping a beat here? But what I'd like to do is give you a full context of the information here. Now, if this gets worse, I hope I'll be on that and see like, hey, you know what? This is 120,000 homes versus 90,000 homes. We got a big problem. This, to me, 4,000 homes doesn't signify a big problem where our market is crashing, where inventory levels are skyrocketing. Yeah, they've gotten better. It depends the way you look at it over the past couple years, but in reality, inventory is pretty much right where it needs to be in a balanced market. We were just so severe in a seller's market at that time that we're now bouncing back to more of a normal market and people think the sky is falling. It just doesn't seem to be the case for me. So what I want to take a look at now is closed sales. We're going to go back to 2017, compare 2017 to 2024, and then we're going to compare 2021 to 2024, just so you can see where these thumbnails, these videos are all coming from. Where is this hysteria coming from? So when you take a look back at 2017 in November, you can see that we had almost 20,000 closed sales in the entire state of Florida. Now, if you look at today, we have roughly 17,000 closed sales for the entire state of Florida. And this doesn't account for population, right? Our population has definitely gotten much bigger since 2017. So that could give you a little bit of cause for concern. But I also think that has to relate to this year in particular. 2024 for the state of Florida was a wild ride, right? We had an election, right? Probably one of the biggest elections of our lifetime just happened this year. Just so happened that happened around November, right? We also had some major hurricanes come through the state of Florida, which really peaked around October. And then we also had just your standard run-of-the-mill economy, mortgage interest rates, all that kind of stuff, and insurance issues that also hindered our market here in the state of Florida. So with all these factors combined, and we're gonna go into each of them, I think this is what led to lower closings for this year. And the hurricanes and the insurance and the election are going to be the big drivers of those lower sales. So let's first talk about elections and if they actually matter in terms of buying a home, selling a home, and what's going to happen to your home price. Now, just to put this out, I really don't care who you vote for or whatever. You know, I put my tinfoil hat on. I think a lot of this is kind of just a show for people, but at the end of the day, this does have an impact in your decision making as a buyer and a seller. Depending on who wins, depending on who loses, you may not want to make the move that you were thinking you might want to do based on what you think is going to happen by the new president coming in or the old president coming in, whatever that is. It impacts people's buying and selling decisions. And this is anecdotal from a realtor, but I speak to a lot of people that are like, you know what? I kind of want to wait. I want to see what happens. And they want to wait for the election to be over before they make a decision. And now, especially since we're in the end of the year here, we're actually starting to see a good bit of jump in activity. At least I am personally. A lot of the realtors that I know are starting to see a jump in activity, especially after the lower lows of the September, October, November market. But does the election and who wins, a Democrat or Republican, does it actually matter?
Hello, but I must say,
for your home prices. So if we go all the way back to 1960, the Market Distillery put together a great graph for us where it shows Democrats and Republicans, who was in office and what was the home price appreciation like. So if you look at, in general, you're going to see Democrats' average returns over their time in market is a 33% return. You look at Republicans, you have a 28% return. So in reality, yeah, you're gonna win a little bit more with the Democrats, especially when you're talking about a 33% average return in general. It's really not that much different than Republicans at 28%. So I think the good thing here, especially because I'll sell to a Republican and a Democrat, doesn't matter to me, is that either way, whoever wins, you're going to win. Your property is more than likely going to appreciate. And if you're concerned about buying a home and what's going to happen with the market, the one thing I'd like to take is just in general. Now we're going to look at the city of Jacksonville. I'm in St. Augustine here. I control northeastern Florida. That's the main market I find myself to be an expert in. I want to take a look at a 10-year return and what that could look like if you do buy a home. And this is taking an aggregate of pretty much all the markets across the past, I think 100 years he did it here. But the odds of a positive return on Jacksonville real estate by ownership time frame over all property types. If you're looking at a 1-month return, the average return you're going to get is a 57.8% chance of getting a return. The 1 quarter goes to 77%. 1 year, you have an 85% chance of getting a return. 2 years, 88. 3 years, 87. And so on and so forth, all the way up to the 10th year where you have a 91% chance of making a return on your real estate. So, in general, if you are looking to buy, you're looking to sell, it shouldn't be a worry, right? This is a long-term investment. This is something that you're not going to live in for a couple years and move out of. This is a long game. This isn't stocks. This isn't Bitcoin. They don't go up and down like crazy. It's definitely more of a smooth, floating, consistent increase in property values, and that's what we've seen historically over the past 100 years. So in general, just to sum it up, I think that a lot of people wanted to wait and see what had happened, especially because this is an election year and a lot of people were very, very polarized on this election. So they wanted to wait and see, and that was a lot of the feedback I got from people, just talking to people every day in my business, but that's also what I've heard from other agents and also what you can kind of see in the stats here. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is going to be the hurricanes that affected our area this year. Now, we're talking about the entire state of Florida here. I'm in northeastern Florida, so we don't really have those same issues in general as the rest of the state of Florida does. But regardless, let's take a look at how it impacted our real estate market in October. So if you look at October 2024 and compare it to October 2023, you'll see that our real estate market, our closed sales actually went down 10% year over year. Probably the biggest driving factor of this was going to be Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. Now, there's no real economic data showing us like what fell out because of the hurricanes, what got delayed or maybe pushed to the next month because of the hurricanes. All this stuff happens, but we can see closed sales, and that's the biggest thing that we're going to take a look at. So in general, if we take a look at closed sales, we're going to see that Miami metro area was down 11%, Port St. Lucie was down 13%, and the Crestview Destin area was down 16%. Now on the flip side, if you look at like the Jacksonville metro area, that was actually up 1%. And Pensacola was up 1% compared to October of 2023. Once again, these areas, just a little bit further north in Florida, not as affected by these specific hurricanes. But you see even bigger losses where these hurricanes directly hit. If you look at Tampa, it was down 16% from this time last year. You look at Northport, Bradenton, that was down 16%. And then Cape Coral and Fort Myers was also down 17%, which definitely brought that number up higher for the rest of the state of Florida. These areas more than likely were impacted by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, which is why you're going to see a correlation to closed sales dropping off of a cliff for the month of October. Now, one of the other factors that you have to kind of tie in with hurricanes is the cost of insurance here in the state of Florida. Now, I don't think the cost of insurance is really slowing down sales in a significant way like a hurricane would, but regardless, it definitely makes it more expensive to buy a home, and also your annual carrying costs on that home, regardless if you own the home through a mortgage or you own it outright. So if you look at the entire state of Florida, you're going to see that the South Florida, the Panhandle, that's going to be the area where it is way more expensive for a homeowner's insurance premium comparatively to the rest of the state. Now, I'm up here in North Florida. We have seen insurance premiums go up. There's no doubt about that. Most of them are going to be in the areas where you're flood prone. Outside of that, because we really don't get hit with hurricanes as much as the other parts of Florida, we really didn't have that huge of an issue like South Florida and like the Panhandle. So you can see, if you're looking at like the Miami-Dade area, the average homeowner annual cost for insurance was $5,600. When you compare that to Duval County, it's going to be $2,268. So roughly half of what they're paying in Miami is what it costs up here in St. Johns County, Duval County. The northeastern Florida area is just going to be much, much cheaper for all the factors we just outlined, right? It really comes down to hurricane risk. Duval County and St. Johns County have only gotten hit like 4 or 5 times in the past 100 years with direct landfall hurricanes. Yeah, of course, they've gone through the state. We've gotten affected by the bans and all that kind of stuff. But once it hits the state, it typically loses a good bit of power, so that we're really not as affected as the rest of the state of Florida. But there is also a light in the end of the tunnel for Florida home insurance, or at least I hope there is. House Bill 837 was passed a couple years ago, which was a way to make sure that lawyers didn't add additional fee multipliers onto the lawsuits so that they can make more money. And we've literally seen Florida lawsuits cut down to pretty much half in the past couple years, whereas we were a large majority of the country's lawsuits years prior. So if you look at March of 2023, we had a peak of lawsuits of 8,345. And then if you look at November, after House Bill 837 was passed, you can see that we're at 4,064. So hopefully this makes the insurance market a little bit more friendly for competitors to come into the market, start providing more insurance to Florida homeowners. But we'll keep you updated on all of that. Okay, so the next thing that we want to talk about is going to be the economy in the United States and also the state of Florida, which is obviously a huge driver of when people buy homes, because if they don't feel financially secure in their job, in their investments, more than likely not going to make a huge financial decision on buying a home that's $500,000 or so. So when you take a look at the US economy and we're looking at GDP, you can see that we have higher than expected growth at 3.1% if you're adjusting for inflation year over year. Now, we also need to mention that back in 2023, the beginning of 2023, we had 2 negative quarters of GDP, which typically signals a recession. So we all know that however they describe a recession is changing. It's constantly changing. Who knows what a recession is anymore? Does it feel like a recession? Is a recession? Who really knows? You don't know you're in a recession until you're out of it. There's too much information on that. I just felt like I needed to point that out. But What they're saying is for the future that our economy is not expected to grow as fast as it did this past year. So if you look at the projection for the US economy over the next couple years, they're not forecasting that same optimism of that 3.1%. You can see that they're actually forecasting a 1.9% increase. They're expecting economic growth forecasted to slow through 2025. So what does that necessarily mean for our real estate market? That could mean a further slowdown, maybe more inventory, maybe less closed sales than what we're seeing here today. But I definitely feel like this is something this is all a moving target, right? These things change all the time. We'll see what happens. So the next thing I want to do is take a look at unemployment. Now, once again, they changed the definition of unemployment. People are on unemployment for a certain bit, then they go to discouraged workers, and then that's a whole percentage. That doesn't also factor in the people who don't have full-time jobs. They have a couple part-time jobs. It's a mess, right? Either way, I'm giving you the information here. This is the best data that I can come up with. I'm not some CIA operative that can get all this kind of stuff. This is what I got here, guys. So we're going to go off of this. So if you take a look at unemployment for the United States, we're sitting at 4.3%, which is actually really healthy. If you look at the average unemployment, it's around 5.6% for the long-term average. So we're still well below that across the entire United States economy. Then you take a look at the state of Florida. We're at 3.3% for the entire state of Florida. Our economy is doing really, really well. That's for a variety of factors, probably the influx of money since COVID, the different jobs that have had to move here because of different states' regulations. And just in general, I think Florida has been kind of prepping to be another major economy within its own in the United States. So take a look at that. You see 3.3% unemployment. That is another good sign. And then you take a look at the city of Jacksonville, which is the major metropolitan area in our area. You're going to see 3.6% unemployment rate. Once again, we're below the United States average. We're below the historical average for the United States as well. Seems to be that our area is doing pretty well. So if you take those economic indicators, you take what the economy is expected to do, I don't really see too many things changing. I don't see that the economy falling off of a cliff here. I don't see unemployment spiking crazily. I haven't seen a whole bunch of people getting laid off here in our area. It's just not something that I've seen or am aware of. And if I am, throw something in the comments below. Let me know. Engage with me in this conversation. I'm learning constantly, as you should. Okay, guys, and that is it. I know I threw a whole bunch of stats and information at you. I hope it gave you a little bit of context of what's going on here in the state of Florida. If you are looking to buy here in the state of Florida, my main area is going to be the northeastern Florida area. This is where I consider myself to be an expert. So if you're looking in Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Flagler County, Palm Coast, Flagler Beach, or even if you're looking in Putnam County, make sure you reach out to me and my team. If you're looking anywhere else in the entire state of Florida and you want someone that you know is good and it has their finger on the pulse, and hopefully like this video and it made you feel like I have my finger on the pulse, I have a ton of friends like that within the state of Florida. So reach out to me. I can refer you to a great agent in our area. If you need anything aside from that, reach out directly. Buy, sell, or invest here in northeastern Florida. All we try to do is give you the information so that you can make an educated decision on what you want to do. Until next time, guys.